Issue 125. We start out with Sally explaining that the dates of the Zorda attack that wiped out Earth civilizations roughly correspond to the dates of the Days of Fury on Mobius, meaning they're the same planet. First off, dates as in more than one? She can't be implying that every Date of Fury was the fault of the Zorda, especially since Days of Fury are about lava and windstorms and blizzards, where they don't belong, not gene bombs. Second, roughly correspond. How roughly? What's the difference between the dates? What's the margin of error? Then Locke says that the computer network at Haven has reached the same conclusion that Nicole did. So it's just as good as Nicole, I guess, at that place. The king says that it's imperative that they contact the Zorda ship at once. And Aurora gives the king a headgear that will enable him to telepathically communicate with the Zorda. Oh, thank God, Sally has to do it. That's really good because I can't imagine a stern-looking authority figure who looks like he's from the war being as sympathetic from a stranger's perspective as a teenage girl's naive voice of reason. I trust Sally to do this more than him. She explains to the Zorda, after looking like she's been transported up around the Zorda underwater or something while still able to breathe, I don't know why she can't just look like she's still at home on the chair talking to the helmet. But anyways, she explains that the humans are no longer the dominant species on the planet. Which is good, honestly. I prefer it to be that way in the Sonic series. I mean, Eggman is just like one human compared to a whole bunch of different Mobians. It's always how it's been. Then she says that her scientific data shows that the gene bombs mutated Earth's animals giving rise to the Mobians, or Mobo sapiens. I have almost no problem with this whatsoever. I remember hearing about this backstory already years ago, so maybe that's part of why, and I can certainly agree that there was absolutely no need for this. But I still respect and appreciate the effort they put into actually trying to explain why there's a planet with humans and Mobians sharing it. Two vastly different looking races of people. I love that the writers actually thought, humans do look out of place here. So let's give an explanation for why that is. They could have very easily just had it always have been that way though. That humans and Mobius just happen to evolve together on the same planet because Aurora wanted it that way. I think I would have preferred that, I guess, but honestly, I don't care. I just respect the idea of a writer caring enough to explain things they don't have to. It shows passion, effort, especially for the Sonic series. But the Mobians basically being created by random aliens does make sense to annoy certain fans, especially those who are easily annoyed. Anyways, I really wish the text box from the telepathically talking Zorda was connected to it, telepathy or not, because it took a few seconds for me to understand who was talking. If it was the Zorda, then why doesn't he just say, "my species," instead of talking like he's not a Zorda himself? He says that the Mobians still have a sizable percentage of human DNA. Makes sense since they have human intelligence and mostly human-shaped bodies, so it could easily look like they have human DNA by sheer coincidence of the fact that humans are anthropomorphic people, like humans are intelligent species, so to be an intelligent species, an animal would have to be more like human. They shouldn't really care though, they're still not humans. That's like saying I hate chimpanzees because apes share some DNA with them. So? The Zorda are just looking for an excuse to destroy a planet or something it did thousands of years ago to one person. Sheesh. Talk about holding a grudge. And it was thousands of years ago, why would they care? You don't see America attacking Italy for executing Galileo. Sally gets sent back her telepathic communication being interrupted for some weird reason, and immediately says that it's hopeless and they won't listen to reason. The Queen is determined that they must have a weakness. Well, every living species has a weakness, plenty of weaknesses actually. Fire, water, acid, too much bright light, the list goes on. Why wouldn't that apply to the Zorda? All they have to do is try to decide which weakness would be the best and most practical against people in space. Then Locke's transmission is cut off by Eggman, who says humorously, "It's me, your number one pal," and shows off a giant robot that could level an entire mountain. He better not use it in Station Square's mountain. He then says that because it's so huge, only Sonic Speed can generate enough power to power it. So Eggman and Dr. J really aren't that different because Dr. J had the exact same idea, making Sonic run to power a mecha. The king reminds Eggman that currently he's the ruler of 99.9% of the planet. Huh? Since when? I don't see that. I mean, for one, the Robians all got de-roboticized, and they're the only people who will listen to him. And I doubt the people who de-roboticized them, green aliens I guess, would do that just to release them back to a place where they'd be roboticized again, so all of his loyal citizens are gone. So unless he has a huge amount of sub-bosses ruling every country in the world he's not in that I don't know about, and even then I refer back to my original point, there'd be nobody for those sub-bosses to rule over. And How many of those sub-bosses were Robians themselves? They got deroboticized, so they're not working for Eggman anymore. I only consider Eggman to be ruler to Megapolis, a ghost town. The king then has the guts to demand that in exchange for Eggman's help, he would cede half of his global territories to the Kingdom of Acorn. First off, he'd never pull through with his end of the bargain, and you'd be stupid to think he would, since he never does. Second, there's no reason he wouldn't try to take them back afterwards, and there's not enough people competent enough to protect all those regions outside of Knothole from being invaded. And third, the king is obviously bluffing because if Eggman says no, he can't exactly go, well, then Sonic's not helping with the robot to save the world then, he'll just let everyone die now. Eggman would really be brain dead stupid to buy that, and yet he does, because the plot demands it. So congratulations, King, you just won a bunch of territory you're gonna immediately lose. It's not like there's a Sonic in every one of those places after all. I mean, I guess they all have the military, but it'd be genre blind to assume that the military would be allowed to successfully defeat Eggman. Meanwhile, we see an echidna head-shaped picture of the planet in outer space with a text blurb saying that in a realm outside space, Knuckles senses death, and Aurora thinks, no, it can't be, when he comes back. Wait, Adair said that she knew Knuckles was worthy and you only live twice, and she agreed, so why is she now thinking as if she wanted Knuckles to not come back from the dead? How the hell do you sense danger from that far anyways? Danger is an abstract concept, you can't sense it. Unless he saw a vision of a possible future to scare him, but that's not sensing, that's seeing. Anyways, the goddess, while looking very bored, asked Knuckles how he could so casually forsake spiritual enlightenment without bothering to explain why spiritual enlightenment would be good in the first place. Knuckles wants to be a hero, and because of this, Aurora reluctantly sends him back. Reluctantly, even though she's doubting that the world could survive without him. What the hell are her priorities? Then we see Sally working as the princess to make a speech to the public to boost morale. Then Sally says that if Sonic fell in battle, she'd refuse to be anywhere else but by his side. I doubt that. She'd have to get up to go to the bathroom sooner or later, unless she means she'd go insane and go into the tomb with him. Maybe she doesn't mean literally. Then why say it? Anyways, she goes with Sonic pointlessly to meet up with Eggman, and Sonic and Sally sit on two chairs in the mecha with pedals in front of them. So two chairs, like, guess Sally wasn't pointless? But he needs Sonic's speed. Sally has no speed. It'd make more sense to bring Mina. Where's the hamster ball? Instead, this is about Sonic moving a pedal at super speed, while Sally moves a pedal way slower than him, and I have to wonder why Eggman thought to make an extra seat in the first place since he didn't even mention Sally in the plan. After the Zorda retreat, Sally hugged Sonic from the side, and while Sonic tells her to follow her heart and calls her darling, he's just staring ahead blankly and doesn't smile at it. Great chemistry there. Sally, get a hint! Then they hear a clanking sound as Sonic's ankles get chained. And Eggman boasts that now that the Zorda are defeated, he can use the robot to conquer Mobius. And he says to Sonic that he'll make a fine battery until he starves to death. So he's not going to have an automatic food feeding thing to prevent him from starving to death, like would be smart. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. He can't expect Sonic to keep pedaling his robot now. And if he can't expect that, then he must be planning to force his shoes to pedal with the chain somehow. Meaning he'd be able to pedal until even his skeleton's crumbled. But even then, he wouldn't be able to make him pedal at his significant super speed. So the robot wouldn't be powered at all. Then it looks like we see a blue laser hitting the planet as the Zorda say that this is the quantum dial weapon, which is explained while we see the heads of a bunch of characters floating in a blue void, which is a weird design choice taken literally, which you might on the first read. You could have just shown the characters' whole bodies and the settings they're in. For all I know, that's what the quantum dial does. The Zorda explained that once its gears will have activated, the arm of the dial will advance to rupture the space-time continuum. Wouldn't it destroy the whole universe, including the Zorda? It is explained that once it has completed its rotation cycle, the rift will create a black hole to destroy the solar system. And they coldly say, good riddance. Yeah, you lose one ambassador and that's how you react. That's mature. Eggman confidently insists that he can use the robot to smash the quantum dial, and Sonic says that the pedals are starting to move. On their own? That's what I assumed, but that's not powered by super speed then. It's powered by the machine forcing him to move his feet. Unless when he says fueled by nothing short of the pure hedgehog unleaded, he means just having Sonic there powers it, like the kids in the mechas in Evangelion. The mecha goes to the southern tundra, and then we see Antoine telling an army to go on a mission to destroy the quantum dial, See Tails flying a biplane with some other aircraft. And then Knuckles is shown, saying to Aurora that he learned that some people get a second chance at life if they're worthy enough by being one with the Chaos Force. So that grants you omniscience. Omniscience, which can't logically work because you can't focus on that much information at once. He wouldn't be able to learn anything from that. He'd just go insane from also being aware of everybody in the world's thoughts. How do you pick out what to focus on? And if you're not focusing on everything, then you won't be knowing everything because you'll forget the other things you're not focusing on that you hadn't already learned by heart. And you can only learn so much by heart, unless your brain was changed to the point where you're not even a person anymore to make that work, and that ain't worth it. Aurora, for some reason, tries to discourage Knuckles by saying that he only has one chance to become one with magic. And Aurora looks evil as she's a silhouette with evil eyes, which is very appropriate considering she's saying dismissively that his friends will eventually die anyways, and that Knuckles being a hero is foolish and selfish. Yeah, sacrificing stuff to be a hero for other people is selfish. And she's not exactly having the kind of sanity slippage to break down and justify that crazy thought. This is supposed to be a good person? And Knuckles says, if I save my loved ones, how is that selfish? Dude, when even Knuckles the Echidna has smarter reasoning than you, something's wrong. You're not supposed to take these two seriously as wise people at this point? They normally are, I'm sure, but this is terrible writing. They should have just supported Knuckles all along and sent him back home right away, the minute he got here, saving us a whole bunch of wasted time. Instead, they look evil. As Knuckles warps away, Aurora expresses total confusion that someone would give up the chance of being cloaked within the very fabric of eternity, while not all explaining why anyone should want that in the first place. Does it smell like roses? Does it give you an infinite supply of joy and happiness? Does it give you a whole bunch of fun, fulfilling things to do all your life? Unlocking the secrets of the universe does sound appealing on the other hand, but scientists on Earth already do that. And most people aren't the kind of intellectuals who go out of their way to choose that above everything else. This is one stupid god. Even if I still like her design, she comes off as a mother figure. If she was male, I completely hate her. Yeah, I know. Then as they're asked, weren't you ever 16? Why are you asking the creator of the universe that? Maybe she was, but if she could have been younger, then that would mean she'd have been a baby at one point too. And either there was someone else around to take care of her as a baby, which I hope is the case in this universe, or this makes no sense. You can't survive on your own for long, especially not as a baby, deity or not. Finally, we come to the southern tundra. Wow, there's so much to talk about this story. And we are told that the quantum dial must possess an automated defense system around its entire perimeter. As a result, all technology-based weapons, including Station Square's missiles, fall apart 15 feet of the thing. So because they're not technology, all of the characters that could be considered heroes from all different parts of the world charge on the quantum dial, dodge the lasers, and wait a minute, Fiona? And Tails just says, look out Fiona, and makes sure she dodges the laser, even though he reacts with absolute stunned surprise the next time he sees her as if this whole thing never happened. That's bad writing. You could have just not had this panel at all. Tails isn't supposed to know that there's a non-robot version of Fiona yet, but instead, here he is acting like she's a normal person and not someone whose robot duplicate he fell in love with. We immediately cut away from that nonsense, and Eggman's mecha just falls apart in mid-flight, causing Sally and Sonic to fall, and fortunately their fall is broken by the snow. Nicole says that she's scanned the dial with her bullshit powers, and is relaying the information she somehow got back to Rotor and Knothole. I mean, at least explains she has a psychic power that lets her do the objects. Even then, why just technology when that could apply to all objects? Rotor explains that once the dial's arm is in motion, there's no stopping it for them, but if they create a counterforce that causes the arm to reverse, they can destroy its gears. Sonic wonders if he could use his super speed to run counterclockwise to the dial, because if he could create that force. And Nicole says that the dial's destruction would cause it to implode though. Don't you mean explode? And you're forgetting that Sonic can just run away from the explosion before he would be caught in it since he moves at the speed of sound and all. They sure have a lot of faith in Sonic, don't they? Nicole shows reluctance at his possibly self-sacrificial plan, probably showing personality by showing that she cares about him, and says that she's detecting a strange energy buildup coming from inside the dial, a backup defense system to prevent damage from organic attackers, a destructive wave burst that would incinerate anything in a 100-mile radius, which is a pretty bad thing considering all the heroes are here. They're told that they have 3.5 seconds, and Sonic runs towards it saying that he loves Sally, but somehow he doesn't get to it in time despite being able to run at the speed of sound, which is over 600 miles per hour. Not that it matters because nothing happened. Knuckles has destroyed the laser cannons and emerges from the green light back to his normal-looking self, which I assume would mean back to his normal powers too. Naturally, Julie Sue is relieved at this, and I couldn't help but smile at seeing that. Knuckles then explains that Sonic's mind was open to him as he returns to this plane of existence and he'll need a hand, but immediately discovers his omnipotence is gone. I guess he didn't catch on from the fact that he's not green anymore. Good, he's officially back to normal, and the tension has returned. Sally is crying, telling Sonic how dangerous his plan to stop the active dial is, as she still doesn't get just how fast he is. And the two hug each other as Sally complains about the supposed tragedy that took them a long time to start being totally open about their feelings about each other. The two tell each other that they love each other, and Sonic supposedly runs into an explosion, saving everyone. Then we get a long string of narration pretending that they had the guts to kill off the main character, but I'm sure he just got somehow sent to another dimension instead. They devoted a plaque and a statue to Sonic. Sally has some overwhelming sadness that she doesn't show very much, and then we confusingly cut back to right after Sonic supposedly died and everyone starts crying, when we should have seen it happen at a different time. And yep, Sonic was sent to another dimension. I assume the Zorda one, which is weird since I thought their whole plan was to kill everyone, not send them to another planet. I don't understand why they had to send Sonic here writing-wise, instead of just having Sonic be fast enough to avoid the explosion because he's Sonic the fucking Hedgehog, and immediately revealing that he's just fine. This issue is written entirely by Carl Bullers, which surprised me, since one, with all the complaining about Penders, I'd expect a story that's overhated by the fanbase to be written by him, and second, it has Knuckles talking to Aurora in it. I thought at least that part would be him. But yeah, I said overhated because I didn't really hate it. It had some plot holes, sure, like Sonic somehow running the robot with his super speed despite the pedals forcing him to move rather than him actually using super speed and thus activating it. But I found the story as a whole really interesting and engaging because of the threat to the world. My biggest hated moment was how Tails reacted to Fiona suddenly showing up, treating her like he already knew her for some time instead of being all shocked at seeing her when he was in love with a robot duplicate of her. Unless that scene is shown in a flashback in a later issue, but that's just confusing. I'm glad she at least tried to stop the dial though, like a hero, if uselessly. And Nicole shouldn't have been able to know anything about the quantum dial, but I'm used to her being a Deus Ex Machina having nonsensical scanning powers by now. The significant moments of the issue are that the Zorda aliens are revealed to have created the Mobians unknowingly with their gene bombs, which makes perfect sense to me, and so I don't mind it even though it's totally unnecessary. And then after the king makes a deal with Eggman to get half his territory, which he stupidly expects to be followed through with, and after Sally somehow figured out through historical records that Mobius and Earth were the same planet, even though the historical records were all destroyed, they all fight the Zorda with a mecha powered by super speed with pedals by Sally too for some reason, instead of powered by just Sonic running a hamster ball like made sense. And then Knuckles and Sonic destroy the quantum dial, with all of the other heroes coming here for nothing. And with Sonic being teleported to another dimension in the process because fuck logic. I could understand if it had been explained that the quantum dial was supposed to warp people to another dimension, like trapping the Dark Legion in the Twilight Cage, but it wasn't. It was supposed to create a black hole spaghettifying the solar system. If you're gonna have him warp away, do it because he destroyed an interdimensional teleporter. That would have made sense. Oh wait, did Sonic save him? Did Sonic send him there? That would have also made sense, so somehow I doubt it. Instead it's probably the Zorda saving him for no reason. Why would they save his life? Do they want to punish him? Actually, that would make perfect sense if they programmed the dial to do that. Maybe this is the only problem for me because I haven't read the next issue as I'm typing this. Nope, it isn't. Still makes no sense. And as I end off, I'd just like to reiterate, it's not the kind of unnecessary origin with a Zorda thing that's the problem with this story. It's the plot holes that are the problem. This isn't by any means an atrocious and laughable story, or even a bad one. I found it really engaging. It's the plot holes that are the problem. And really, literally, every story has plot holes. I mean, how do you determine which plot holes are a story ruiner?